What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. So as far as the market's going, I just wanted to mention that right now, SPY has an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. And when you look at the 30 minutes time frame, we're looking quite decent, seeing a nice bounce so far with this inverse head and shoulders. Now, I would like to see us basically clear close to this 680 area to start pushing for 682 and eventually 685. But if we end up losing support right here around this 676 area, there's going to be a risk of us seeing bigger downside. So it's very important to watch these levels. As of right now, the market does favor upside a bit more, so I'll be watching this very closely. So why is the market pushing? There's many different reasons. One thing that's very important is that the Supreme Court justices appear to be very skeptical of the legality of President Trump's tariffs on Wednesday when they basically had oral arguments in the case. That could have a very, very big effect on the fate of President Trump's tariffs. This is some important news right now, right? There's been a different distinction being made that the tariffs are not taxes. But that's exactly what they are, according to the liberal justice Sonia. We're seeing other justices out there who are saying that once again, even conservative justices seem a little bit wary of President Trump's unilateral moves of imposing duties. So that's something very important that's happening so far. Of course, nothing is necessarily guaranteed and nothing's 100% confirmed yet, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens. So far, some justices seem skeptical, and that is a very important move because if they do end up ruling in against President Trump's tariffs, that's going to once again cause the stock market to likely be bullish because some tariffs will be canceled. That's very important, right? As President Trump announces new tariffs, the market typically drops. And typically, when we start to see the tariffs being delayed or if they are rescinded, then of course we could be looking for more bullish upside. Of course, we're just waiting to see what's about to happen. Nothing's guaranteed yet. There's also some important news coming out involving Elon Musk. Elon Musk and Tesla have their very important shareholder meeting today. In fact, it's going to be today at 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's equivalent to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. So be ready for this. This is going to cause some volatility for Tesla. They're going to be voting upon Elon Musk's pay package, which is going to be worth close to $1 trillion if certain things end up panning out. And of course, it's very important because if Elon Musk is not granted a pay package, he's going to be incentivized to leave the company. And that's going to be big for Tesla. One thing I noticed is that the majority of shareholders tend to support Elon Musk and his pay package. So Tesla should be fine. And we'll see what happens as time goes on. Also, there's been some more news about, the government shutdown, how it's affecting airlines and many other sectors of the government. Not the best of news so far as the shutdown prevails. So we'll see what kind of legislation passes to fund the government. As of right now, nothing's confirmed, and we have to wait and see on that. And besides that, there's nothing else too crazy on the news. Nothing that's out of the ordinary. So, with that being said, what's happening today? Today's Thursday, November 6th, 2025. At 11 o'clock a.m., we have Barr, Williams, and a couple more Fed speakers. So look for some volatility at that time. And besides that, it's going to be a more quiet data day. And then Friday, which is going to be tomorrow, is when we have more data coming out that's more significant. So keep that in mind. There's not really much coming out for today. Even for earnings, it's going to be more quiet. There's not much for earnings. And that's pretty much it for now. So what do I see for this market? Well, SPY is going to gap up, and we're going to see if we come back down to fill this gap. We do like to come down after we gap up, but notice that there's two inverse head and shoulders, right? You have this left shoulder right here, a head, and then a right shoulder, which could drag us higher. And then when you zoom in into the right shoulder, notice that we also have a miniature inverse head and shoulders for the right shoulder, meaning there's a left shoulder here, a head, and then as long as we don't end up losing like 678, we could continue to reaccumulate and bounce back up for the 680s for the other smaller inverse head and shoulders. And that aligns with the larger inverse head and shoulders. So it's like a double inverse head and shoulders forming on SPY, which could be favoring upside. If we're bearish, you want to see SPY basically take out this low. If this low right here breaks the pre-market low at 676.5, then of course we could be dipping to 675 or below. But that's not looking as likely. What's more likely is that this is our low right here. We're bouncing, making a higher low, and we're going to try to continue to make higher lows to eventually push for 682 to 685. So watch this very closely when we open, and there's going to likely be some kind of pullback move towards these EMAs. But as long as we can hold 678 by the 4-hour close, there is a higher probability of SPY bouncing for 682 to 685, in my opinion. There's more confluence for upside than downside looking at the setups. The 4-hour also looks a bit more bullish. If we could hold above 679.2, we're going to likely continue to push. I expect us to come down a bit when we open towards like 678 and some consolidation before it attempts to bounce higher to fill this gap and continue to push higher for 682 to 685. So I find it more likely for the market to go higher, but watch your levels just to be safe. For the QQQ, the same thing's essentially going on. Now, if we end up losing 622, we could be tipping back down towards 618. But in my opinion, I think that we consolidate between 622 and 625 before potentially climbing higher for 629. There is more potential for upside, in my personal opinion. On the 30 minutes time frame, we also have this inverse head and shoulders like pattern on the QQQ, and then we also have a miniature one right here for the right shoulder. So see how this is the left shoulder, this is the head down here, then this is the right shoulder. There's also an inverse head and shoulders for the right shoulder, which is like looking quite, in favor of bulls. We could retest 623, but hopefully we bounce. Hopefully we bounce near that area, and then we see some buyers defend us and take us back up towards like 627. There's a good chance it tries to bounce, but we'll see just to be safe. Just in case we lose support at 621, there is that risk of us dipping towards like 618. But as long as we hold support, we could be looking for a nice bounce, in my opinion. So watch that very closely. On the IWM, we also have an inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't end up losing 245, we're going to be favoring a rebound and an attempt to push back up towards 246. On ES, we have a nice looking double bottom. So long as we don't lose 68.27, we're favoring a dip and a bounce back up towards 68.50. NQ, we need to hold basically 25,600 as long as it holds. The inverse head and shoulders remains. We're going to see if we could break past 25,880. If we do, expect us to push towards 26,000. Bitcoin's holding up right now. We're going to see if this loses 101,000. If not, we could be looking for 105,000 as our target. On Tesla, we're also range bound right here. We have 460 as our main support and 465 as our resistance. Now, it is possible Tesla retests 455 to 460 for a temporary move down. It's possible it dips a little bit from here because of this resistance, but there is a bullish and a bearish case on Tesla, which is what I want to warn you guys about approaching this big shareholder meeting. The bulls will argue that, wait a second, Tesla has an accumulation right here. So this is kind of like a cup and handle or some kind of like accumulation that's going to take us higher. That's the bullish case if we break 470. But the bearish case is that, wait a second, we also have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder, and that could drag us down in case Tesla gets some kind of rejection. So watch for the bullish and the bearish cases. We could retest 455 to 460. Then we're going to see if Tesla could bounce off this trend line to continue to go higher. The setup looks more bullish, but we're going to see if this head and shoulders pans out or not. On Nvda, we're showing some weakness. It might consolidate between 196 and 199, and then we're going to see if this dips lower or not. Looking at Appl, we have resistance right here at 270 and support down here at 266. We're going to see if we could bounce and push for 272. On AMD, we could be dipping to 253 to 248, and we'll see if we bounce. Coinbase is technically on a downtrend. We're going to see if we could break past 325. We could be dipping towards like 307. We'll see what happens. Amazon also might be retesting 246. Meta is likely going to be favoring 651. Google is favoring upside with a nice accumulation, so it could be looking for like 292 plus. And then Microsoft is once again on a bit of a downtrend. We could be dipping back down to 500, and we'll see if we bounce or not. Last but not least, the VIX has been dipping. Will the VIX form an inverse head and shoulders to get a big bounce, or does it get a big rug pull? It's in the middle right now. So the market could go either way, but as of right now, the setups on SPY and the QQQ, as of right now, they favor upside a bit more. It's more likely we get upside if we could hold these levels with the inverse head and shoulders forming on SPY and the QQQ. All right, so make sure you watch your levels just to be safe. We never know what the news will say, but as of right now, the setups do look more bullish. And with some skepticism from the Supreme Court when it comes to their rulings involving President Trump's tariffs, this is once again a little bit more bullish for the market. That's part of why we're pushing, and there's a good chance and we might try to go a little higher. So we'll see. We'll see if we hold levels or not. But for now, as long as we hold key levels, we do favor upside. All right. Thank you all so much for listening, and peace out.